there any like new science news? Well, there's
Um,
always science news.
every once in a while I get notifications on my phone where it's like some new physics article is breaking the laws of known physics, and
Yeah,
every
then
time
you
I get
read
them,
it.
I just don't think it is true. I don't
Yeah.
ever think like that's definitely breaking the laws of physics.
Well, one, like you read the article, which is like some pop sci article, and then you look
Hmm.
at the actual, you know, paper, and it's very like, yeah, it's a minimal step in the right direction,
Yeah,
and that's about it. Like the paper doesn't even try to admonish the fact that it's. Am I using that word right? It doesn't try to play up the fact that it's like groundbreaking. It's like we found this cool little thing.
yeah. I feel like very few papers really try and play up the fact that like we discovered something amazing. Like most of the time in most papers I've read, it's just been like we discovered a thing. It has some potential uses. You can figure it out for yourself though.
Yeah,
Like most papers sort of just are more in the side of like this is what we found and this is what it means. And it sort of just leaves the and this is the uses up to the reader to decide.
that's if the article was even good to begin with.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking garbage papers out there. I did always love the papers where it was like as we've demonstrated on this graph, there's a large difference between these two things, and like they have a graph, and like one of the dots is way at the top, and one of the graphs is way at the bottom, but the scale on the graph is like from 99.9 to 100, and you're like, okay, so that's a difference of zero point 0.1 right there.
Well, to be fair, that has a context of like sometimes that might be a big difference depending
Yeah,
on what you're
sometimes
talking
it
about.
does. Sometimes, and in a lot of cases, they just fuck with the scale to make you think it's bigger than it
Yeah,
actually is.
that too.
Every time they do it, I'm always just like, you guys are fucking dickheads. But there's a lot of like fuckery that goes on with results in science.
There's a lot of fucking that goes on with statistics in general.
There is.
It's very easy to manipulate the data to show what you want to show.
Yeah. That's why there's actually a huge problem in science where a lot of studies are not repeatable, which is sort of like very
Well,
problematic.
that's the main tenet of science is you have to be able to repeat it.
Right. But like it's just it is a main tenet of science where it should be repeatable, but like it's not something that journals like test on. Like they don't send it out to labs where they're like, repeat this and see if you also get the same results. Like they just assume if you're sending it for publication, like you've tested enough to be repeatable among yourself. And they just assume like you're not going to lie and just send us the good results, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, we definitely wouldn't do that. A lot of people do that shit.
Oh, unfortunate.
Yep. That's why
But that's academia, unfortunately.
that is academia. It's because there's a fuck ton of money in cancer research, and so a lot of science or a lot of professors fucking
Try to play
carry
up the
their
fact
career.
that
Yeah,
like, show that they're kind of getting closer to an answer when they
yeah,
may or may not be.
exactly. They just sort of carry their career on cancer grants because there's like a shit ton of money in cancer research, and they kind of just hand it out willy nilly to anybody with like a new idea. And so a lot of like new professors who need to get papers out and get funding and all that, they just sort of are like, yeah, we'll do some cancer research and we'll create some papers. And so they force feed papers out by doing this stuff. I have a lot of conflicting feelings about this. Actually, they're not conflicting. I actually have a lot of negative feelings about this.
It does. It sounds like we're being very anti-science. It's very much an issue of the system not working very, very well, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
exactly. Yeah, agreed. It could be designed better
Yeah,
in a way that is healthy for the whole,
these
you know,
scientists don't
discovery.
want to like make junk shit,
Yeah,
but they need money to do what they actually want to do.
yeah. Since a lot of like associate professorships survive on the publish or perish mentality, it's sort of like if I don't publish this paper by any means necessary, I won't have a job in a couple of months. So they sort of fudge the edges of the results, not by lying, by just I guess it's sort of lying, but they just sort of send out like the best results and not all of the results.
Well,
But there is not very much scientific like research in Dr. Stone, but there is science.
there
So
is science.
let's get into some Dr. Stone science.
First, introductions.
Introductions. I'm
My
Nick.
name is Brandon.
He
Got that
remembers
right.
his name. Look
Yeah,
at
I do
that.
remember my name. I also haven't been using Alex's wonderful rendition of Cruel Injustices on a kazoo as an intro, but I will be doing that once I finish the editing for that episode.
Okay, good.
I think which won't be going out until like maybe the day before I move out. But
Yeah,
anyways, yeah,
I
Dr.
mean,
Stone.
we could use it first for the start to next season.
We could. But anyways, this is about Dr. Stone, and creating a cell phone,
Yes,
more like a radio, more like a radio, really, a two-way
basically,
radio,
yeah.
just a ham radio. Actually, is
It
what they're
basically
using,
is.
or is what they're going to create. Is in my
Yeah,
opinion.
so I don't think numbers or anything.
What was that?
So I don't think they're going to have phone numbers or anything. So
No.
radio is probably the better way of putting it.
Yeah. Also, like the transistors won't be small enough to actually be a small little handheld. It's going to be like this big thing that they lug around in like a wheelbarrow.
Oh yeah. I mean, did you see the size of those batteries they made?
Do you see the size of the transistor?
Oh yeah. But I mean, the fucking batteries are like you have to put just the batteries for the thing in like a backpack by itself.
Yeah, basically. It'd also be very dangerous if the backpack breaks and you leak all that sulfuric acid out.
Oh yeah.
But anyways,
That would
take it away, Nick. What happened in this episode of
be a
Dr.
great way
Stone?
to burn your back off.
It would be.
All right. So this episode kicks off with basically our wonderful village people coming to understand that in the creation of the water wheel, Ginro and Kinro no longer have to crank out power, which they're thrilled about. And
But they have to do other stuff.
yeah, they have to go train because we're going to war soon. And our regular human beings, after we create a little attachment to our water wheel, they get to realize they no longer have to pump air into our furnace because our furnace is now automated. So they're thrilled, but they have to go back and build their village again.
Yep. After this
And then,
huge endeavor, Chrome and Dwarf are happy that they created this cool marvel, but they have to make more stuff.
yeah, the work never stops.
Yep.
I really feel like they should be training somebody else to replace Dwarf because Dwarf is definitely like 80 something at this point. So like he should have
is
an
80.
apprentice.
Yes, I guess it's Chrome.
But I guess so. But I feel like Chrome is Senku's apprentice, so Dwarf should have his own apprentice. I don't know.
Who would be his apprentice? It can't be Ginro because he's a fucking idiot and a fuck up.
And it won't be Gen because Gen does not want to do anything.
Yeah, he has his own talent that he's really good at. I'm okay with that. Kinro is once again has his niche and he's good to fill it. Same thing with Kohaku has her niche.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know who else.
I guess yeah, we could just recruit like one of the village people and be like, "You're going to have a face and a name now."
Yeah. It can't be Magma because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Also, he does not have the proper touch of a fine artisan.
That's true. And it can't be Magma's Toady, who's basically LeFou from Beauty and the Beast, because he also sucks. But yeah, so our science crew is basically off to now build a proper vacuum, because in order to create a cell phone, we were going to need a vacuum tube.
Yeah. To which you said like it was going to be hard to do that. They kind of just really gloss over everything and just kind of make this little drip mercury thing.
Yeah, they sort of just... I guess at some point, Chrome just had mercury that we didn't see.
They didn't say he has a bunch of minerals and like different stuff. But
yeah.
mercury's also like fucking toxic as shit.
Yeah, and like not super easy to collect if you don't know what you're doing, or like very hazardous to collect, I should say, if you don't know what you're doing. So...
I guess this is just one of those steps that, or not steps, but yeah, steps that were just glossed over, just so that we wouldn't have. It's because it's maybe not as interesting, or the author didn't seem it to be interesting as opposed to everything else. I almost cut myself. But anyways, so we have mercury.
He has mercury, and they basically just do a mercury evacuation where they have mercury, which is heavier than air, so it pushes air down. There's a vent at the very bottom so the air can go out, and it basically just collects all of the air. And the reason the air evacuates from the light bulb has to do with the fact that air tries to spread evenly throughout the body that it's in. So basically what we're resulting in is we first prove we can create a light bulb by evacuating the air, and then we move on to let's create a vacuum tube. So the critical difference between a vacuum tube and a light bulb is with a light bulb, you just sort of need a little thin filament to connect it to electrical wires. Whereas with the vacuum tube, you actually need to have like copper wiring go inside of the vacuum tube so you can run electrons through it. This proves to be the problem though, because when you start heating up a metal, it expands and glass is exceptionally fragile. So even the little tiny minuscule amounts of expansion of the copper wiring is enough to break the glass.
Yep.
However, Chrome, who is going off on a copper finding expedition to basically bolster up how much copper they have for their, building a cell phone endeavor, he comes back with new copper, and instead they make copper tubing. So when the copper expands, it expands more or less evenly in every direction rather than just outwards. So the outward expansion is smaller, and it's now small enough that it won't break the glass.
He also gets a bunch of other minerals on when he comes back, which comes into play a little bit later.
Yes. He also, yeah, just picks up anything inside of his cave because now that they've created a light bulb, he can go full on spelunking inside the cave.
Create
So
some terraria.
after creating copper tubing, they now have a working vacuum tube, but the problem is that, or their vacuum tube stays sealed, I should say, but the vacuum tube doesn't work because the filament breaks immediately because they're using
They're using bamboo.
plant-based filament. Yeah, bamboo filaments at the moment rather than actual metal filaments. So after a whole bunch of testing, just basically to prove, I guess this is our repeated results thing. Senku basically proves through repeated testing that the bamboo filament is the problem. It will not work. He comes to understand that he needs to improve his filament somehow.
But in
And
like the current age that they're in, there's just nothing to do. There's nothing else.
When Chrome and Kohaku sort of look at him, he kind of looks back at them and says, like, we're fucked, guys. We got nothing. So he mopes around after, I should say, first to basically prove to the village. There was a long time skip while they, Chrome and
about a
Dwarf and
couple of
Senku.
months. At this point, it's now Christmas. It's exactly Christmas.
Yeah. So to represent sort of Christmas, because Senku is counting the days and he knows what day it is, he hangs a whole bunch of light bulbs from a tree, and because we have Gen around to sort of fill us in as the audience, as the other sort of real person, or present day, modern day human, Gen sort of says, "Oh, you're hanging light bulbs from a tree. It must be Christmas." And Senku, sort of responds with "Oh, look at that. That was an accident." But we know
Senku's
that,
little tsundere.
yeah, Senku can't be seen to be having emotions or feelings. He has to look cool, but he cares deep down inside. We can tell. But after doing that, and then the filament thing becoming a problem, he's sort of moping around and decides sort of there's no reason to mope around. I got to move on. And what do you know? The day to move on is New Year's Day. As Gen wakes everybody up and sort of says, we're all in a rut. It's time to go up there on New Year's Day, watch the sunrise come up, and agree to have a new mentality for the new year.
Yep.
And all this time, Suika has basically been looking at herself and her contribution and said, like, I need to be doing more. I need to, I'm good at looking at rocks and shit. I'm going to look at some rocks and see if there's anything interesting here. And so she finds a rock that she thinks might be interesting, and she brings it with her on the New Year's hike. And right at the cusp of dawn, just as the first sort of edges of light are stretching on the horizon, it gets hit with a little bit of ultraviolet light and starts to glow blue. And Senku realizes that they found an ultra rare rock, the sort of rock that turns into tungsten.
Yep. And tungsten
which is going to be our new filament.
Is what we use in modern day electronics for filaments.
Yeah. So now we got new filaments for our computer, or for, I'm sorry, not for our computer, for our cell phone.
Radio.
We now have this rock, but we need more of that rock. So we got to go on a full-on spelunking trip specifically for the tungsten rock.
Yep. So we're gonna we're gonna take Senku, Chrome, and Magma because he's good at hitting shit.
Yeah. And Kohaku is occupied with training the troops.
We also have we also had a bunch of like video game references at the end there.
Yeah.
The whole spelunking thing, which I'm not sure what game that was. It's probably just a super old game that I just don't know about. And then we also had just a fighter select screen.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was kind of funny. As they were going through, everybody had like a health and attack power. Senku had an attack of 1, and then all the way at the end you had Gen, who had an attack of 5, proving Gen slightly stronger than Senku.
Oh, I guess so. He was able to, cut what's his face's spear with the little knife, so I guess there's that.
That's a good point, yeah. He can use his mentalist powers to distract you as he stabs you in like the kidneys a whole bunch.
Shake.
Certainly a way to go about it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we got our boys. Our boys are going on a spelunking trip to collect some tungsten.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, other than that, there was not a whole lot of like jokes or anything in the episode.
Yeah, a bit more of a serious episode.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not serious, just less jokes.
Yeah.
There were also a lot of montages, especially like in the middle half, where we're testing the filaments and testing the light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing people, do some farming, some crafting and shit. And like that took up a good like 3 minutes because we also had like this song montage, which I always like. I like the music in the show. It's very very fun.
we also got to see a whole bunch of like what the rest of the village people are doing in terms of like what do they usually do for food and for collecting fruit and fishing and stuff like that. So we got to see a whole bunch of the different village people.
Oh, now that
And
you have
while we were,
glasses or bottles, we can preserve food better.
yeah,
So is that?
they can preserve meat for the winter because I guess they didn't know how to do that before.
They
Although
could
I feel like smoking is a fairly common thing, but
they
maybe
could
they
probably
just
like
didn't realize
salt
it.
it and stuff, but just not like the canning it type of
Uh-huh.
preserving.
Oh, yeah, to keep it like more fresh than salted beef. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
But aside from that,
Um,
I don't know what else there is to talk about in this episode, unless you have anything.
Not really. I mean, the only other thing I was gonna mention was the fact that like while we were doing like the montage of everybody's sort of uh daily jobs, it sort of struck me like how because the fact that it was six people that basically is the progenitor for this whole civilization, like everybody basically has like one of three faces.
Oh yeah,
Like there are three girl faces and three male faces, and that's it. And there's like
yeah,
two hair colors and like five eye colors. Like there is not a lot of genetic variation in this population.
yeah. That is like one of like the dumbest aspects of the show, or like probably the dumbest aspect of the show. So I just try to
Uh,
ignore it. Just try to like forget about it
yeah.
because it
Like
fucks with
usually,
the with buying into the show.
uh-huh. Usually I try and like look past it, but like when they were showing us everybody all at once, I was like, you just really throwing this one in my face. Like everybody has one of three faces, and they are
Yep.
not like brother and sister related. Um, but yeah, so our wonderful, basically incest village
Oh
is,
no,
I mean, it's basically what it
I
is.
know it is.
Um, they're going strong. They have to keep the bloodline pure, Brandon.
God. See, we're not infecting our own bloodline. We're infecting everybody else's.
We're not diluting our bloodline, we're infecting others.
Shout out to episode 9, season 8 of It's Always Sunny.
I think so.
Fuck it.
The wonderful McPoyle family.
Yep, it's the McPoyle and Ponderosa wedding massacre.
I think so.
Well, let me do a quick check on that for no other reason than just to be right.
When the McPoyles basically become zombies.
They've become cranked out on bath salts.
Yeah. Apropos of just the bath salts thing, I mentioned this yesterday, but I learned recently that while invading Russia, the Nazis were cranked out on meth like all the time, and so that was why they were able to invade Russia like insanely quickly. In the course of like 3 days, they basically got from the edge of Russia to Moscow, was because they just never stopped advancing. Anytime they were got tired or slowed down, they were like, "Let's just take more meth." So yeah, methed up Nazis.
Yep. Who would have thought? It was actually season 8, episode 3, so I was close.
You were close.
Yep. And it was the Maureen Ponderosa wedding massacre, but that's beside the point.
Okay.
Speaking of massacre, let's talk about Babylon.
Yeah, let's talk about Babylon.
Oh God.
All right. So I have words to say about this episode. It's carried with me. It's been about a day since I watched it. How long has it been for you?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday morning. You watched it in the
Okay.
afternoon.
Yeah, I watched it in the afternoon.
So like a quick recap of the episode is we get the finale of the debate where Itsuki basically talks about his motivation for why he wants to pass the suicide law and why he wants to commit suicide himself.
Oh, right. That was the other part of this. I forgot I wanted to talk about this too.
Yeah,
I was so upset by the second half. I forgot about this first thing. Okay.
I didn't like his
Talk about this first.
motivation because he has two main motivations in my view.
Uh-huh.
The fact that he wants to like give his heart to his son,
Mhm.
and then his second one, which I agree with more than the first one as his motivation, which is he wants people to stop being afraid of death, so he wants to be like the Messiah and show people that you can be happy while you're dying. I understand like his point of view of like, or I can buy into that motivation more than I can buy into his I want to give my son my heart by dying thing. Like I didn't understand any of that.
Mhm.
What were you gonna say?
So he has this whole to his first point, his whole thing about like I want to die so that my son can have my heart.
Yeah.
That's not how donation works. Organ donation does not work that way. So unless you die by like very, very fucking specific means, you
Oh,
basically cannot
hold
donate
on.
your
Was
organs.
it literally? Did he literally meant to give his heart?
Yeah, his son has a. I took the implication to be his son has a heart condition, and so he literally wants to die so that his heart can be removed and be transplanted into his son.
Okay,
That's
that's
how I took it.
so that would make sense because he does mention organ donation very in that like same passage.
Uh-huh.
But I thought that was more of his other like that's an other thing that can like be useful to society if organ donation works that way. If like more people are dying, so we can give organs to people who want to live or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Which I guess that makes sense like holistically, but you can't
Okay.
yeah you can't really give your heart your organs to someone.
Yeah. It does not work that way. So the way organ donation works is it's not just like, oh, you're dead, we're going to take your organs. You have to basically be brain dead when you are in the hospital. So like you can't just like, oh, he, cut his wrists and died, or like shot himself and died, or like anything like that. It has got to be like you are on life support and are functionally brain dead. And the hospital basically looks at you and or looks at your, next of kin and says like, are you willing to donate their bodies to save their organs to save somebody else? They are not going to survive. They are dead on the table. We are keeping them alive right now. And then you can transplant organs. It has to be out of somebody who is alive but functionally dead. It is not a like they committed suicide and therefore we can use their organs. It doesn't fucking work that way.
I guess it would
Like,
depend on how they commit suicide because remember they still have that pill which kind of just makes you go to sleep.
yeah, but like that hasn't come up yet.
Yes, that's a
And
very
like
good
that's the
point.
whole thing. Like it's been a thing that's existed on the edges of this whole thing is this pill that we keep bringing up. It has not gone back to it. And like we'll see in a month if they go back to it then, but
They
like
should go back to it. It's the whole Chekhov's gun. Like they have to bring it back because it makes too much sense for the show to
uh
not bring it back.
we'll get into why I don't think it'll be coming back later
Okay.
when we talk about the ending. Um, but yeah, that was my complaint with his whole like I want to give my son my heart, assuming it is a transplant thing, is it doesn't fucking work that way. Like there is no method of suicide in which you could give somebody your heart.
Unless they just take it out of you while you're still alive. That would hurt.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
They could sedate you, couldn't they? Like, heavily sedate you or use like an injection. Would that work?
A euthanasia type thing.
Yeah.
Um, well,
Yeah. I don't know.
it's hard to say because like, oh, I don't know if like biologically what the process of overdose is the thing.
I don't
Like
think
you
you would want
couldn't.
someone who overdoses organs though. They probably are
Yeah,
damaged.
exactly. That's the thing. Like I don't know biologically what happens in an overdose because you want the death has to be something that only kills the brain. Basically, like it has
Yeah.
to be a brain breakdown. Like basically the way to do it realistically, that wouldn't even work. I was gonna say if you severed the nerve between the brain and the rest of your body, so that like you just die. Like your brain is no longer functionally working, but I don't think even that would work.
Oh, how about suffocation? Not yeah, suffocation.
Uh well then you get into the whole panic response. You're
Nah,
in like panic responses, your blood like you get the fight or flight, like you just release a whole shit ton of hormones. And
and that
like
spoils
especially
the
like
meat.
yeah, basically. It kind of does. You release a shit ton of like some sort of acid, I think, in suffocation, drowning type deaths. Um, but yeah, like that's why one of the most common ones is motorcycle accidents
Yeah, because
because they
you
usually
bonk your
result
head.
in like yeah head trauma, and then you're functionally still alive when you get to the hospital, but you basically are dead. You've suffered a head trauma that you cannot recover from. You are dead, but they can keep you like your body functioning. That's why motorcycle accidents are or motorcycles are usually called donor cycles by doctors.
God,
Yeah,
it's a little dark. Whatever
it is
gets
a
the
little
job
dark.
done though.
One of my aunts told me that she works at a hospital, and I was like talking about I wanted to get, or my dad was talking about wanting to get a motorcycle, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna get a donor cycle," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so fucked up."
Anyways, how would you feel about his second point of view though? His second motivation, which I feel like is the better one of the two. At least the one I understood.
I want people to be more comfortable like considering death and talking about it.
Yes, I
Um,
feel like that was a more interesting.
yeah, I would agree. Yeah, because it was the whole thing was basically like he wanted people to be more accepting of the concept of like you can die, and like
Yeah.
let's have a conversation about it. Like let's consider all of the things about dying and stuff like that. Like it was more interesting. It's one of the things like I think for a lot of people like our age and older than us, up until like at like post retirement age, like thinking about death is just sort of something. It's not that we're necessarily afraid to do it. It's just not something we need to do, and therefore
Yeah.
we don't. Whereas like I know a lot of people who are over like 80 and in like the 80s and 90s, like death is around the corner for them, and so like Alistair Beck has pancreatic cancer right now, and
Yeah.
he's talked about the fact that like he's accepted that he's going to die. Like he's come to terms with it. He's made his peace. Like he's ready to go when it happens. And so I think for a lot of people who get to that age, like that is something they think about, and eventually they do, or at least some of them come to peace with, like come to terms with
Hmm.
what's going to happen. But it's interesting that he wants to have like the thought in Babylon was like have more people sort of
Yeah.
face it as a
Across the
day-to-day concept.
spectrum.
Yeah. I don't know how much it would like work. I don't know how much like normal people would be like, let's think about death all the time. Like I don't know if it would work that way, but it's an interesting
I don't know if
concept.
it like yeah. I don't know if it'll work. I'm just saying it'd be the motivation for him is more easy to buy into.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it all ends up going in a month because it actually the ending of the show won't end until it won't air until another month from now, where it'll go on a brief
Mhm.
hiatus for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll be finishing it up. We won't be talking about it for the next coming episodes.
Yeah.
But that was that part. Then the second third, is the confronting of our main character with his friend, the police officer, who
Uh-huh.
kills himself after talking with I, and basically the entire plan going to shit because she shows up and she's actually disguised as the mother.
Yes.
And then that leads into the third part of this episode, which
Uh-huh.
is the massacre of Sekiro.
Yes.
Sekiro, yeah.
So
All of which was foretold by the poster.
all of which was foretold by the poster, yes. Um the suspense of the hide and seek part of it, or not quite hide and seek. Like the radio thing that they were doing of like
Yeah, everything
check
going to
in,
shit.
yeah, everything going to shit, and like the people dropping off the map. That was really interesting. It was like an interesting way of sort of portraying like people dropping off the map and what's really going on, and things of like, oh, the mother and child team, and has them check in, but they're not checking in, and like it was an interesting way of doing it. Like it built suspense well in that sequence. Um, and then we talked to the police officer where he basically explains like I shot myself in the leg because I have to. I feel so compelled
To
to
snap out of
die,
it, yeah.
but
For just
like
that brief moment.
yeah, like like I've shot myself. I'm going to die. Like I'm going to bleed out from the leg wound. So like it's satisfying the urge to die, but I'm going to kill myself again. But I had to get here to warn you. Like drop it. She's pure evil. Like there's nothing there to do. Like just run away. Never look back. Um, and he basically talks about the fact that she basically whispered something in his ear, and he now feels compelled to die. And it ends with him blowing his brains out. Our
And some
prosecutor
other things.
takes off. What's up?
And some other things.
Oh yeah. Um, but our prosecutor takes off to basically hunt down I. He instead finds that
Everybody
all
else
of
is
the
dead.
rest of his team is dead and
Yep.
Sekiro's gone, and that is yes, the final third, the massacre of Sekiro by axe, which was set up an episode ago where we found the receipt for an axe. Which, despite it showing us the receipt for an axe and like obviously being a Chekhov's gun of like this is going to come into play soon, I managed to forget about it right up until now.
Yeah, they mentioned the receipt. Didn't think about it again.
Yeah, like in the moment you're like, oh, that's gonna come up, and then like other stuff happened. The dude got run over by a truck. Like there was the whole debate thing. Like you just didn't think about that receipt for an episode and a half. Then it suddenly became extraordinarily relevant.
In the worst way possible.
Yeah. So I basically sends the prosecutor a link to a live stream where she expounds to him about the fact that despite being opposites, they should still be able to understand each other because they're both human, and that there is a reason for what she's doing. Don't just think of it as like pure evil for the sake of evil. There is like a method behind her madness, and she wants the prosecutor to really think about what's happening and try to come to understand her point of view as she chops off each of Sekiro's limbs and then her head. This is intercut with, at this point, it's a thing that the show loves to do, a juxtaposition with the prosecutor's family making him a box lunch
Mm-hmm.
with his head made in seaweed right at the end to really carry home the point of she cut off Sekira's head. Um, so we talked a little bit. You and I talked a little bit about this sequence at the end, and
Like
I said I didn't really enjoy it.
I didn't enjoy it, but on like a sense of like uh, uh, um of crafting the moment, I think it was really really well done.
Hmm.
Just because like you do feel just like every single bit of dread that you could possibly feel from it.
Uh
Like
huh.
to kind of compare it to this to one of the other episodes we watched today, um, Cautious Hero, where we see the little flies drop people.
Hmm.
It like doesn't carry the same weight. It's supposed to be still supposed to be like this shocking, horrifying scene, but it just doesn't carry the same weight as this scene did, despite the fact that I think like 20 people died in the mosquito scene. In this one, it's just one person. But like, it's just so. They show off how cruel it is in such a good way without actually even showing basically any blood or any gore. So I thought that part was fantastic, but it was
Hmm.
really hard to watch.
It was. See, you made an interesting comparison here, and now I feel conflicted. I was going to say my original point was going to be you're right. It was well, like the emotional, like
The emotional
as
toll is yeah.
viewers, the emotional toll was well done, and at the same time, I was going to say I don't think you could have fucked it up. Like I don't think in that scene presented the way it is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is a way for them to show it that it doesn't elicit that response. It could have no sound. All you need to know is that girl is alive at the start, and it will elicit that same horrified, like just sick feeling inside of me.
Okay.
Like it was basically torture porn. And at the same time, you were very right. Like the cautious hero was people being dropped to their death, and it didn't have that same impact. And I don't know if it's because they were faceless people, or we knew Sekiro, or what, or like it was so much slower with Sekiro. Like with the people, it was.
It's like a couple of scenes and that's it. For this one, it's basically around 5 minutes long, like the entire portion.
Mhm.
It's also the fact that this is supposed to be like a more grounded show,
Yeah,
rather than Cautious Hero, which is fucking face lasers everywhere.
yeah.
Let's see. It's
So
I don't know a better um analog for it. Like I don't
yeah,
know what else to
compare it
compare
to.
it to. Yeah.
Yeah, because like in terms of tone, like you have classic horror or like anime horror stuff of like there's dismemberments and bodies everywhere, and like people get limbs cut off all the time, and or people get limbs cut off frequently enough. I'm thinking specifically of something like Future Diary, where like people are getting murdered like fucking constantly, and like it's not that it doesn't elicit the same response so much as it is just like people are getting murdered a lot, and I feel less connected to any individual person, but like the murder is still a large part of it, and like in this murder in this sense isn't like a huge part of the show. Like people kill themselves or are inspired to killing themselves, but like we never really see murder in this same way in this
Oh,
show.
there's also like another important piece is that Sekiro's the only one that's actually murdered. Everyone
Yes,
else commits suicide
which
at
is
the hands
weird.
at the hands of I. Even though she was whispering to women, so I'm not sure why
Yeah, I
she
just
wouldn't
thought of
have
that.
her.
Yeah, I just thought of that too. She definitely convinced some women to jump off the building in episode 3, but for whatever reason, she cuts off Fi's limbs.
It
I'm sure
could
that'll
be
also come into it.
probably to fuck with the main character.
Undoubtedly, she needed to really drive home the part of like you really need to think about what you're seeing right now and why I'm doing this.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so depending on your opinions of it, we basically either got a somewhat poignant, like dark scene with the protagonist for 3 to 4 minutes of having to watch Sekiro die, or 3 to 4 minutes of torture porn. Um, but the ending component of it is like the main character is now like broken and alone, and it connects back to the hero thing that I has been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
the lone hero having to stand against evil. So that is now the prosecutor is going to live out that the lone hero, nobody on his side, nobody will support him against evil all by himself. And it's I now have sort of like conflicted feelings about the show. I feel like depending on what happens 36 days from now when the last episodes come out, hopefully all at once.
Hopefully, all at once. Yeah, I would love that. Just to
It's
knock it out.
my like final opinion on this show is now entirely contingent upon whether or not I's motivation makes sense.
Yeah, if you can buy into it, I feel like that's fair.
Hmm.
Um, we still have a quarter of yeah a third of the show left.
Uh-huh.
Um, and right now, like we actually don't know why she's doing this, so I think it is important to figure out why. And if we can't
Yeah.
buy into it, that kind of ruins this episode, and then thereby like the rest of the show. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, even if it ruins it, it makes it worse. Because up until this point, this show's been very good in my opinion.
It has been really good. My complaint now is that like I's whole like I can convince you to be, I'm Linda McCartney, I convince you to do horrible things and join Wings, um, is because like it's now this like magical like power. She whispers things in your ear and you're just compelled to suicide. Like it doesn't take time. Like I thought before, like we never saw before how she did it or like how long it took. And I always thought it was like she worked people over or over the course of like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Like she really worked them over
Yeah.
until they were in the state to commit suicide. Now it's like she whispers a line to them as she passes them on the street and they want to commit suicide. And I just don't know if I like it anymore. I don't know if
Okay.
I like I's whole thing anymore. It's like it's just entirely contingent on who, like, what she is.
I think
Uh,
I'd compare it to the Joker from The Dark Knight, where she's supposed to be like this agent of evil, while the Joker was supposed to be this agent of chaos.
uh-huh.
But even then, we like the Joker still had like a character and still had a motivation that we understood.
Yeah.
Um, he wasn't just a metaphor. Right now, are you feeling that I is just a metaphor and not actually a character?
Yes. Well, do
Okay.
you want to know what I actually is?
What?
Because I've come to understand what I is.
What is I?
I. So this is interesting. You are famously an atheist and therefore are predisposed to not immediately see this. I is the whore of Babylon.
Oh, yes, yes. I did see someone mention the reference to the biblical Babylon.
Yeah. So I is basically the one of the sort of references in Revelation is to this figure called the Whore of Babylon who controls men or like sort of leads them into basically straying away from godliness. And like the whole point of the Whore of Babylon is to like basically be like a harbinger of the end times. The interesting thing in Revelations is it also sort of predicts how I might die. So if I is actually the Whore of Babylon, at the end of the show, she might be burned to death,
I believe
and
that.
our city might fall. That's the other thing that might happen.
Right, because this is Babylon.
Yeah, this is Babylon basically, um, and so our city may basically fall and the government be disbanded at the end of this, and I might burn to death because that's what's predicted to happen to the Whore of Babylon in Revelations.
That would make sense when everything like comes back. Because right now we've got two storylines with Itsuki and I. I guess in the meeting would be the Whore of Babylon is burned, and so two burns the city.
Yeah.
I would like that. I guess
Um,
it depends on the execution as well. The
yes.
the idea sounds interesting and cool. I guess
Uh-huh.
not cool in like the cool way, but it sounds interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
execution is also half of a show, so
Uh-huh.
that's hopefully they can deliver on it.
Hmm. But like that's why like I'm feeling it hasn't been like super religious about it. They did bring up Christianity, and we talked about this a
Yeah,
little
in
bit
the
last
debate last
episode.
episode,
And I thought it was weird they didn't bring up their own ritual suicide thing
it would
in
make sense to
Japanese
bring up
culture.
Christianity.
Yeah. So if this is more of a Christian influenced manga, or originally whatever it is, light novel, I don't
I
know.
think it's a movie or book.
Okay. Originally if it was, yeah, a book written by somebody who's influenced by the Christian religion and not Japanese culture, it would be more about like Christian themes and the Whore of Babylon and talking about like Christianity's view on suicide. It all sort of goes together into a Christian sort of thing that's going on here. Um, where was I going with this?
Something about religion.
Probably. I sort of lost the thread in the middle
That's
as I got
unfortunate.
distracted thinking about like the last episode. Um,
But to put it to kind of wrap it all up, The reason they bring up the reason they use Christianity as their defense last episode is because this is more Christian influence, and it's taking from a Bible for not verse but like a portion, a figure,
a book.
It's I guess yeah, all of Revelations, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, specifically the part about Babylon.
Well, yeah. I don't know if we're going to get all of Revelations. Dude, if we get the horn and the 4 horsemen,
the trumpeter.
That'd be awesome.
I love that persona. I use it all the time.
Let rain the blood. Blood rain. So the screech of the heavens.
As of right now, you're conflicted on Babylon, and I still think it's good. I still hope it'll be good. I still have faith in the show. At the very least, it'll still be well directed.
I want it to end well. I'm afraid because I is just not a character to me anymore.
Okay.
Like, she's not a human. And until we know her motivations, she won't ever be a human, I think. So, like, her character is now solely based on her motivation. And so, like, if it's even sort of, like, a garbagey motivation, I will enjoy the show a little less.
Okay.
Than, like, if it had been something where, like, it was well crafted with the whole suicide thing.
I understand that.
Because, like, as it stands, we have the Itsuki thing with the suicide law, and then we have the Eye thing, which is now purely a, like, good versus evil sort of storyline that's going on.
Yeah, which is kind of strange, because our main character also sees the world in that way. Like, if you're going to have a character that sees the world as just good or bad, then, have him be up against, like, a morally gray antagonist. If you had a gray main character, you have to have him go up against a very black and white antagonist.
Uh-huh.
Just for, just to make it easier for the writing at least. I guess you could do white versus black. It's usually, it could still work.
That goes into, like, more, like, Batman versus the Joker.
Yeah.
Where, like, it was all the Joker trying to get Batman to compromise his morals and Batman refusing.
Mm-hmm. I need to watch the movie again.
It's so bizarre because it is trying to play both sides of it. They're trying to have the prosecutor versus Itsuki, where the prosecutor compromises his morals to kidnap Itsuki and, prevent what's going on, and at the same time have Itsuki play the good side hero to Ai's pure evil. So, like, they're trying to play both sides of the fight, and it sort of ends up somewhere in the middle.
Maybe they can reconcile that in this latter half.
Yeah. Really, it's going to be interesting how, or for what reason, Ai has decided to, like, align herself with Itsuki.
Yeah. Maybe she's just married to him?
She just is the wife.
Yeah, she just is the wife.
That'll be interesting.
Who knows? Who knows and knows and knows, and we'll know in a month and a half.
A month.
About.
A month and a weekish. But yeah, so there you go.
Let's move on
to some... been a religious allegory this whole time.
Yep. And we can move on to some more cheery subjects, like slapping the shit out of a girl for a minute and a half.
It's basically an episode of VeggieTales.
Yeah, Cautious Hero.
Yeah,
not Cautious Hero. Babylon's the VeggieTales.
Babylon is basically a VeggieTales. Yes, Cautious Hero is definitely not VeggieTales.
At least for this episode, I didn't really like it because I was trying to do that thing where it had plot for the first half, and then the back half just was so enjoyable for me.
Yeah,
at least.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, it's a weird show to me because, like, it survives on. It feels like it survives on a handful of jokes an episode. But those handful of jokes are so fucking good.
They're so enjoyable. Like, it's just so much fun.
Yeah. So, getting through the first half, we have our hero is not captured by or attacked by the guards like I predicted last time. They basically say, "Come help us. We're being attacked by flies." And Itsuki runs off, or Seiya takes off to fight the flies. So they go find the flies. The fly's name is Beelzebub or something like that, because we can't just call him Beelzebub,
for some reason,
represented as a giant fly. But yeah, we have to call him Beel Space Zeb or something like that.
That's weird. It's not like it's a trademark character or a copywriting character.
Yeah, I really didn't understand that. But yeah, for whatever reason, they decided to try and be a little bit obscure with it.
Okay, that's super obscure.
Yeah,
that's
super
obscure as Babylon.
It's
to be fair, we didn't get that for a while.
We did not get that for a while. Although, to be fair, she wasn't the whore of Babylon for a very long time. She was...
Yeah, just a whore.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. It sounds real judgy when you phrase it that way, but, like,
I'm
you're
joking.
right.
She was doing what she wanted.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
well, the whole
okay.
having sex with things with other people, that's completely fine. Abetting suicide is not very okay.
Yeah. And I also want to point out in the biblical passage, the whore of Babylon is also called mother of prostitutes, so like it ties, it connects. Um,
Anyways,
yeah, we try to be kind to women aside. Back to Cautious Hero.
where we slap a
Um,
woman again.
yeah,
We'll get to
gender
that.
equality. So yeah, so we arrive at the flies, and Itsuki basically sees the flies aren't particularly strong, but they're fast as fuck. And so he is not overly amazingly fast. He's just sort of well-roundedly strong, but he's not particularly fast. And he doesn't feel like he's fast enough to beat all of the flies, especially because despite the fact that the individual fighter flies, they're only like level 30 or 40, there's like 3,000 of them, so that could be a problem. So he basically decides like, look, I can't guarantee a win, so I don't want to fight. So we need to go train.
I have a quick question. Why didn't he just use an AOE like fire attack? Like
Logic.
okay. Like his Phoenix or Fire Meteor.
Yeah, there really isn't one. There isn't a particularly good reason. I'm sure if the show like had come up with a reason, it would have been like, oh, because they're flying things, the meteor isn't necessarily going to be as good because it hits the ground and then does damage or some bullshit
See,
like
if
that.
like on that, okay, cool. You've eased my concerns.
Uh-huh.
Or like the flies, they don't take that much fire damage for some reason. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I understand now why we have to go do this roundabout way of beating the flies. Also, I feel like with really fast flies, using bows and arrows isn't a very good idea. You just use magic, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Yeah, realistically, his auto attack Phoenix, if it's fast enough to catch the fly, or if the bows are fast enough to hit the flies, the auto attack Phoenix should be fast enough to hit the flies. So the auto attack Phoenix should be better, but whatever. Um,
Whatever gets us back to the God realm, because that's where this show shines. The show
Yeah.
shines. God damn. Anyways,
In reality, Seiya just likes going back to the God realm. Really gets his dick hard. So he watches the flies, decides he's not going to fight. But the problem is the other humans who are also watching the flies decide they are going to fight. So they let forth a flurry of arrows, and they all miss. Because the flies are somewhat intelligent creatures in this world, so they just dodge out of the way and come attack the humans. So after sort of annoying the humans by flying near them, I also want to say this just as an aside. When we first got to the flies and I saw that they were all like CGI animated, I had flashbacks to Death March and the ants, and I'm
it's
like, oh
come
god,
back.
please no.
Not
Please
again.
don't, please just be the same 3 flies every time. That would be amazing.
Oh my god.
Unfortunately, it was not. It was not as good as Death March, which is to say it was not as bad as Death March. So our flies actually come down and do individual things where they collect a couple, 20 or 30 soldiers, they carry them up into the air, and they drop them to their death.
And they lose
There
all the
was,
bones.
yeah, there was way too much blood coming out of those dudes for that drop. Like, you don't explode like a meat bag when you get dropped.
Also, apparently they were just literally just bags filled of meat because there's nothing on the inside. Apparently,
Yeah. They just sort of, end up sort of
they're just
exploding.
They're blood balloons.
Yeah. They get dropped through the trees and somehow fall apart into pieces. Despite that not being how humans work, but whatever.
And then we go off to the castle to retreat.
Yeah. So the soldiers retreat. Seiya shows up at the castle to basically talk over with the commander, and he intends to talk to the war leader, or whatever the dude's name is, the strongest human alive. He intends to talk with them about how to beat the giant fly that's torturing them all, or torturing the humans. But instead, he has to talk to the captain of the knights who just got killed, where he basically puts them through the ringer first about things that might be going on. People might be spies, and things might be about to explode, but, they're not. But there was a chance. So after putting them through the ringer, Seiya basically says, yeah, we saw what happened, and there was nothing we could do, so I'm gonna go train. So this revelation that Seiya watched what was happening infuriates the Knight Commander, and she is sort of upset that he just sort of sat there and watched while people died, and she tries to go, give him a solid punch for what the fuck were you thinking, and he catches her hand and just slaps her across the face.
And then he does it again.
The sequence. Yeah.
And then he does it again. And then he does it again.
He throws in a couple backhands, we assume.
It was all suspense.
Because At the end of this, she ends up with a nice little squirrely, like both cheeks full on inflated.
I was kind of hoping like it would cut to him and he would say, "Do you need me to put my rings on?"
Oh yeah. So Seiya is very unapologetic for this. The goddess sort of jumps in and says like, "Holy fuck, what's wrong with you? Are you
Don't be a
Chris
douche.
Brown?" Um, yeah. And Seiya basically is of the opinion I did nothing wrong. She asked for this. She attacked me first. I was defending myself. Very, I was technically correct. Why are you booing me? I'm right. The Knight Commander is basically driven to the point of angry, enraged, grunting.
Throws a hissy fit, and then they just leave.
Yeah, and they go back, and our goddess basically treats her like a dog, as she says, "Go in your box, stay there,
Choo choo.
don't pee on my carpets." Yeah. So they go back to the god realm. They, being Seiya the goddess and our two dragon children, go back to the god realm, where Seiya explains basically his side a little bit more clearly, which is there was nothing you could do and you still chose to fight. Like, I hate people like that. You just ran headfirst into death. You were dead men the moment you made that decision. It's not my fault. Like, there was nothing I could do. And I guess I kind of understand it.
I kind of did too, but like I just didn't care.
Yeah, I largely, don't care about the moral component of it, but like, anytime Seiya sort of looks like a dickhead, he always at some point explains it, and I always kind of go like, I guess you're right. Like, in the moment, I wanted to be more of an anime protagonist and like do things, but afterwards you explain what you're thinking, and I'm like, I guess it makes sense. Which, I mean, is a low bar, but whatever. It's not why we're here. What we're here for is what happens in the God Realm, which is the comedy of this show.
Yep. Where we
So,
get the return of Cerseus, the return of Yandere Swordman Girl,
yeah.
and the return of depressed Elalu, who's fucking useless.
Yeah. And we also get the arrival of new goddess, elf archer goddess.
Who has some ulterior motives,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure what they are, but I can hazard a guess.
Yeah, you're not sure? I'm pretty sure it's bleeding fucking obvious. Jesus. Yeah, so
You never know.
yeah, sure. So Seiya shows up, to make it blindingly obvious, when Seiya shows up at the elf goddess, because he basically, after sort of working through, all right, I want to build a surface-to-air missile, and the goddess is like, yeah, you can't do that. There's no god of missiles, so let's try something else. He's like, okay, god of guns. And she's like, okay, there is one, but not in this world,
I
so
like how
pick
she knows
something
what
else.
guns and like missiles are.
Yeah, well, they're gods of every realm, so it kind
Yeah.
of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So she shuts down guns because while they exist in his world, they're not in that world, so you can't bring guns into their world. Fuck with the time stream too much. So he's like, fine, I guess I'll pick something else. So he decides the next thing to guns is archery. So he goes off to learn how to shoot bows, at a god level, because they always have god techniques. So he goes off to learn the god technique for archery from our elf goddess in the woods. When we get there, she basically says, like, look, I can shoot kind of like a gun for like 7 shots, which is pretty awesome, and it tears down this tree. I can teach it to you, but you first have to learn how to use a magical bow. And this is where I think it becomes bleeding fucking obvious. Is she says, well, if you can't learn how to use a magic bow, I can certainly teach you other things.
You never know. You never know what she's thinking.
And there's a lot of lip motion. As she takes off all of her clothes, and Brandon's like, you never know. You never know what she's really asking for.
You still don't know. You need to have her sign the contract first.
And even then, you don't know.
Yeah, like you're still not sure. She can still hate you.
Exactly. It may be a joke. Ashton Kutcher from the early 2000s jumps out. God, what was that show? Fuck.
The 70s show?
No. The prank show that Ashton Kutcher was the host for on MTV. Fuck. They always basically threw pranks like that on fucking celebrities.
Not pranked.
No, it was something
Punked.
like that though. Punked, yeah. Thank you. Or Ashton Kutcher would jump out. You just got punked.
Bro.
Apparently he did the 50 Cent once, and 50 Cent just got off his plane and just started running down the runway away from the cameras. Allegedly it was 50 Cent, I should say. But yeah, so Seiya has basically started to learn how to use a bow. He learns how to start using a magic bow from Elalu, as he basically says, if you can do it, I can do it. So just show me how to do it.
Oh, no,
And
no,
she,
no. That was a hello.
yeah, you couldn't possibly learn, but fine. I guess I'll, do you the honor of showing you how I do it. You stick your hand out, you imagine a bow, and oh shit, he's already learned it.
Yep.
So Seiya could use a magic bow, so he starts learning how to use bows from the bow goddess, and Elalu is now full on depressed because she is useless.
Yeah, and so she goes eat some candy.
Yeah.
All while Mash just wants to go fight someone. Cersei specifically, he wants to go train.
Yeah. But first, we stop by, as they were standing around outside, and our goddess asked, like, "Oh yeah, what did Seiya tell you guys to do?" And he was like, "He just told us to go to the cafeteria and eat food. So I guess I'll try and go train to get better." Cersei comes by, and he's sort of strung out because, like, oh my god, Seiya might be back. But this time, it's not because he thinks Seiya's going to want to train with him, because he's accepted that Seiya wants to train with other people now. Who cares about him? He's instead afraid because Adenella, the sword goddess, after last time when Seiya shut her down hard,
gone crazy.
She's gone full on crazy. She's gone murder happy. So first we stop by the goddess's friend's house.
Yeah, Risa goes off to just check on her for a little bit.
And while we're there, we find out that Mash has even more hidden talents inside of him, so we can unlock those. And Elalu again gets slightly more depressed as she's even more worthless than her brother. But then it turns out that Elalu has some secret talents too.
And then she
don't know
finally
what they are.
With, "Yay, I'm not useless.
I'm not useless. Unlock them, whatever they are. I'll be happy." So we'll find out what they are next time. But I'm hoping they're actually going to be something useful. I'm afraid it's going to be like, "You have maid skills." Or something like that.
You can now carry 100 pounds more.
Exactly, yeah. She's going to have some, like, really good support skills. Or supporter skills.
Not even supporter, like, just civilian skills.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we go to meet Adnella again.
Yes.
Who just...
And so, when we first get in, she's not home yet, and we look around. Written on the entirety of one wall is, "I'ma kill you." And then Adnella comes back, and holy crap, it gave me flashbacks to that one Korean comic with the auto-scrolling. That face, when Restart turns around, and it's just Adnella's, like, dead eyeballs and that really wide smile. Oh god, that was kind of creepy.
Man.
Like, it first popped up, it kind of gave me a start. I was like, oh, fuck, oh god.
That Korean comic scared the shit out of me.
She scared the fuck out of me.
Fuck.
But yeah, so Adnella has gone full-on murder crazy.
Yep, and so she goes, first Risa decides, just let her down easy, just, make sure she's okay. She lies to Seiya, she lies to her and tells him that Seiya actually isn't there. And she fucking bails, because she does not want to do any of the shit.
Yeah.
And she also tries to go, warn Seiya something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Don't come out of the forest.
Yep.
Just stay here. We will leave from the forest. We will come to you tomorrow to leave. Do not leave the forest for any reason. Then Seiya's like, why? And
Adnella's
like,
fucked.
Adnella's gonna fucking murder you, dude.
But she's right there.
Yeah. She's been sitting behind you the whole time. Yes. So Adnella has arrived to commit murder. And Seiya basically decides, somehow he realizes, I can win this by doing nothing.
By talking.
Yeah.
And so bad-mouthing her.
And so first he steps up and he pats her hair down. He's like, "Oh, you haven't been combing your hair recently, I see."
He starts negging her.
Basically, yes, that's exactly what it is. He just negs her into loving him again. And then he turns it full on to 100, as after she's back in love with him, he looks at her and says, "So you're super fucking gross, and I don't want you near me, so I'm gonna need you to go real far away and not come back." And since Adnella is in love with him again, she's like, "Yes, whatever you want, please love me." And she just leaves. And oh my god, this show, it took so long to get there, but and there were a couple good jokes once you got back to the God Realm. That one joke, that one Secrets of Adnella, just saved the whole episode. It was so fucking funny.
Also the promise of the elf.
Yeah.
Who's off in the corner eyeing him up.
Yeah. So off in the sort of shadows of this whole scene, we have the elf goddess as she stands in the shade of the tree holding an apple, and then she licks the fucking skin of the apple.
Yep.
Who does that?
Well, one, the apple's metaphorical, Nick. It's what it represents. And that shit represents pussy.
I get that. Really? The elf goddess wants to lick pussy? That's what we're going with?
I don't know. She wants someone to eat it. I don't fucking know.
At that point, you lick the apple and then give it to fucking Seiya and be like, "Eat this apple. Get in there.
Take it
Real
slow.
get in there real good. Use your tongue." Yeah. Um. I mean, who knows? Maybe she is targeting Restart this whole time.
She could be.
That would be a hell of a twist.
That would make this show so much better.
If the goddesses were actually lesbians.
Yes.
I mean, we already have sexual assault goddess Valkyrie that we didn't get to see
It
yet.
was sexual assault.
I know, but she's a lesbian at least.
But anyways, that was the episode.
Yeah, that was the episode.
Funny last half. Boring, in my opinion, boring as fuck first half.
Yeah. I largely did not care about the fly thing. We're going to beat it
not
using
care
bows.
when we go back.
Yeah, I will not care when we go back and fight it with bows. Like, largely the fly thing I don't care about. The God Realm is really the best part of this show. Every moment we spend in the God Realm has been amazing.
Ugh.
I was really hoping since we fought the dragon goddess lady last time, we weren't going to fight things this episode. I was sort of upset when we started the episode by fighting things.
Yeah. Definitely.
We'll see. Since we set up more God Realm stuff with the bow goddess, we're probably going to get more God Realm stuff at the start of next episode, which is good to look forward to.
But we're probably gonna return back to the fighting.
I mean, we'll almost certainly, but you know, even if we only get half an episode, it's half an episode more than if we got no God Realm stuff. So I'll take whatever God Realm stuff we can get.
Also, I think the king is gonna attack the God Realm at some point.
The Demon King?
The Demon King, yeah, because he was talking about the gods.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did mention that.
So now they're gonna ruin the best part of the show.
Maybe, or maybe we get to see all the gods be weird around Seiya for a while and make a whole bunch of jokes.
Hopefully, it's gonna go one way or the other. There's no in between.
There is no in between with this show. That is very true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's not much else to say about the first half of the show, and we dissected the jokes of the second half. So if there's anything else you want to say about it, we can move on to our final show.
That's the final show. We've got 2 more shows.
Do 2 more shows? What am I forgetting?
Orisuki and Iruma.
Oh, Iruma. That's right.
You forgot Iruma?
I forgot about the come down from fucking Babylon.
Oh.
I was digesting. Both literally and metaphorically.
Let's move on to Orisuki.
Let's move on to Orisuki. So we get more into the reasoning of our Joro obsessed girl who arrived at the end of last episode. We've basically just sort of, the gal character was there for an episode and we've already pushed her to the side.
Yes, I don't think she's gonna be a thing right now.
Back on the bench.
I think she'll come back later. Not on the bench yet.
Oh yeah, I forgot the bench is a thing in this show. I was talking about the metaphorical bench that represented the sidelines, but yes.
Metaphors.
So, our gal is pushed to the sidelines while our...
Making it also very clear and obvious that she has a thing for Joro.
Yes. But our skewers lady is going to take the forefront of this 3-episode arc, because they're all 3-episode arcs.
Are they?
Pretty much, they've always been 3-episode arcs.
Oh my god, you're right.
So, skewers lady is devoted to Seiya because... fuck. Every time I've called them by the wrong name to start. To Joro, because on the day of the baseball tournament, he bought all of her skewers, and therefore she's in love with him. Logic sort of falls apart there if you think about it too long, but whatever.
I have some ideas, but we'll get to that closer to the end.
Okay, that's fair. So, Joro basically, in his mind, is like, this girl is way too into me, way too fast. There's no way she's not trying to play me like every other girl has done so far.
Yeah, and he finally figured it out at the beginning of the arc.
Yeah. And then immediately forgets it 3 minutes later as she's nice to him, and he basically says, like, what do you want from me? I'll do whatever you want to pay you back. And she's like, I just want you to be yourself and let me be near you. And he is immediately overcome with, like, oh my god, the perfect member of my harem.
Why didn't you show up the first episode?
Exactly, yeah. Just be near me. So yeah, he has now forgotten what he realized at the beginning of this, which is she's almost certainly playing him. Yep. And it's instead decided basically, I've collected another member of my harem, go me. So we see a little bit of group interaction where we see Joro is basically on the, I want to create a harem train, so I need to please everybody. And Pansy is on the, I want you to be with me train, so stop trying to make this a harem thing. They have a little talk for a little while, and it ends with Pansy giving Joro her favorite book and saying, like, I want you to read this and learn from it, because it's definitely not going to be subtext. But of course, Joro has something to do today, and he's a slow reader, so he can't read it all in one sitting. So he has to go do something for an annual tradition. We don't know what that annual tradition is yet. We just see him go into some sort of sports store, buy a small object, and then walk out.
But we do
Which
know
then
it's Himawari's birthday.
we do know that it's Timori's birthday around the corner. We don't know that the two are related because
Oh,
Joro sort of implies that they're not, but we'll see.
he's
We'll
being a
see what happens.
tsundere.
He could also just be being a tsundere. We'll see what happens. It could also be Sun's birthday because we all know that Sun way better than Himawari.
This is very true. I understand that one much better because it could be like a baseball glove.
Yeah. It's also represented, Himawari being way worse than Sun is represented by, as he walks out of the athletic goods store, Himawari tackles him.
And breaks his
because
back, basically.
it's one of those glompers that everybody hates.
Yeah.
For good reason.
I'm not a fan.
Neither am I. But yeah, so she attacks him. Attacks is a strong word, but that's what she does.
Yeah, they do some talking, and we cut to him at home, where he now finds out that the book he had borrowed from Pansy is gone. So he makes it all the way back to the shopping center to, go look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Where he recruits these two girls, pink-haired girl and a blue-haired girl, that are part of the opening, and they're not going to come back later. Totally not coming back later. That's why they don't have pink and blue hair.
Oh yeah, no way.
Who help him out and find the book for him, and basically tell him that this book was super expensive and essentially a collector's item, and now it's ruined.
Yeah.
And because of that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
They make a reference to one of the most expensive video games ever produced in Shenmue, and they say it's about one 100,000th of the cost of Shenmue, which means that it's roughly a book in the area of like $500 to $700 to give you like a number value for how much it's worth.
Shenmue is that expensive?
Its the production cost of it was put somewhere in the area of $50 million to $70 million when it came out in, I think, the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think it came out for the PS2.
I think you're right. But yeah, so assuming they're going off production value, because I think it was just a $60 game, it had a production value of 50 to 70 million, so it puts the book's cost in the range of $500 to $700 US.
It's not. That's a pretty penny for a high school kid in the job.
Yeah, and presumably no savings. So he's got to find a job so that he can basically buy the book back and give it back to Pansy, so that, because it's her favorite book, he doesn't want to be the one responsible for destroying her favorite book. So the next day in the library, he's acting a little bit weird because he's looking through job listings trying to find a job. And Skewer's girl, as it comes out that he's really desperate for a job that pays well, Skewer's girl says, "Hey, why don't you come work for us? We're opening up a new store, and we pay better than the best paying job in the job catalog you're looking at."
Yep.
And so he's full on the train. "I'm gonna go work for you. We're gonna work together. You're gonna pay me a lot of money."
I'm not gonna see Pansy for a little bit.
Yeah. But first, he, decides to man up. I can respect this part of it, at least.
Yeah, actually, this is a bit harsher for most other shows, where he actually tells Pansy that he fucked up and he's trying to fix it.
Yeah, and especially with the whole part of this arc was I need to buy this book back so I can give it to Pansy. I was looking at it more of from the view of I need to do it so that she doesn't realize I fucked it up. Instead, he just sort of comes clean right away. He's like, "Hey, I ruined your book, and I'm going to do this to make it better." And I was like, that's mad props from me. Fucking standing, not standing up for yourself, but coming clean with what you did wrong. I can really respect that.
But Pansy also I don't really care.
Yeah, Pansy basically says I understand what you're doing, and I, she too says I respect and understand what you're doing, but I don't need you to buy the book back from me.
I'd rather you spend time with me.
Yeah, just spend time with me in the library. And this is where I don't think Joro is doing the right thing. He basically decides no, I have to buy the book back because I need to, make it better what I've done wrong.
I could understand, I wanted him to go gray there and just say, "I also don't want to spend time with you."
See, if they'd done that, I would understand it. I genuinely believe Joro does want to
buy the book again.
Buy the book to make Pansy feel better about it, and he's just full on not listening. And it ends with him saying something nice to Pansy, so that she kind of says despite the fact that you're being really selfish, you said a nice thing there at the end, so I guess I'll let you do this. I won't hold it over your head too much.
She walks away because we won't see her for another couple episodes.
Yeah. And instead, we go off to the Skewer's place, and we're starting our job over at the Skewer's place, as Skewer's girl basically says, "Now is the time for real repayment to begin."
So, here is my theory.
Go for it.
For this arc, which also is not it started after this one guy's comment on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
in that the repayment isn't about her, isn't about like some way that she got slighted by Joro, but it's literal repayment for the food he bought because he didn't actually pay for it. And so, the whole book thing, and the whole like her being a bad person thing, is in this arc a red herring. The book just that was a coincidence. It just fell out of his bag because he got knocked down, and it got dirty because the fucking streets are horrendous.
Right.
And all she wants from him is to give her back her money. But she's also a very good person. So what's going to end up happening is he's going to try to figure. He's going to theorize that she stole the book and fucked it all up in order to spend more time and do her whatever shit. Mm-hmm. He's gonna go crazy and basically go off on her about how she's a bad person and make her cry, and everyone's gonna see. Everyone's gonna watch him make her cry as it dawns on him that nothing actually went wrong. No one was actually going for anything.
That would be interesting. Because Joro's not in the mindset at the moment that she is a villain.
Yes.
He's full on the train of she's a good person.
As of right now, yeah.
Yeah.
But it could, come back, because we did get a tinge of that in the beginning. But who knows?
Uh-huh.
I don't think it'll happen because in the scene where he gets the book back, we see a high school girl, like, standing in the forefront. And I think it's meant to imply that's one of the girls.
I think so.
Either Himawari or what's her face? Probably what's
Cosmos.
her face? No, Cosmos.
Pansy?
No, because the four of them.
Pansy, the newspaper girl?
Not the newspaper girl. Sorry,
the
new
gal?
girl. The new girl.
The new girl.
Fucking what's her face? The new one that got the job.
Skewers girl.
Yeah, Skewers. Because they all wear the same uniform, so it could be her. Skewers.
Okay.
Because she fucks up the book so that he has to pay for it back. Pay it back. And then she offers the job, and that's where her whole scheme begins. That's probably more likely.
Mm-hmm.
But this one time, I want her to be a good person and to him to go off.
It would be
fuck everything up again.
Really interesting if he went off and accused her of a whole bunch of shit, and it turns out that she wasn't, there was no nefarious plan in this arc. I feel like it would fuck with the plot progression too much if they did that. There's no way to come back from that, I feel like. You burn that bridge of, you accuse somebody of doing something horrible. There's no way to run that one back.
It'd have to be, a one-time joke. It could not be, a plot thing.
Yeah. Or, it could be just something they do in, private. In the skewer shop where no one else sees, he could accuse her of something horrible. And, it just doesn't come out at school. She doesn't talk to people, so it never comes out at school. Maybe it works there. But, if he, accuses her in front of the class, there's no pulling that one back. He's burned any goodwill he's ever had in that class for the rest of his life, basically, if he does that in front of people. But it would be real interesting as a plot point if this whole arc was basically just a misdirect of we expect people to be bad.
A huge misdirect. It could also be the gal who did it.
It could be.
But I'm not sure why she would do it.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, though. It could be, but I don't think it would be, just because she feels like her character of, the tsundere hot and cold thing, tsundere characters are very rarely actively cold.
She seems more innocent than that.
Yeah. It's rare you get a tsundere who's I'm gonna fucking destroy your shit and then do something nice to make up for it. It's almost always I'm gonna act cold, but in actuality be completely devoted to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the gal is not the, I'm gonna fuck you over type, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think the gal might be, the single, actually... The character that I'm thinking, that I'm sure needs skewers, it might be the gal. Who is just,
she might be our innocent.
Nice, just innocent, nice person who has no ulterior motives.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, it probably is, just because, it fits with the tsundere thing of... She basically plays herself in the, don't talk to me, we're not together, why don't you love me?
Don't talk to me, okay. No, you weren't supposed to say that! Wait, they make that joke in this episode.
Yeah, they make that joke in the episode where she basically I don't have any feelings for him. And he's yeah, I don't have any feelings for her, too. Why don't you have feelings for me? How dare you? Yeah. So, I like her character, though. The gal's, sort of spazzy, ditzy, tsundere character. I like it. I always appreciate gal or tsundere characters in comedies. They're always I just love tsundere characters, and when it's not a explicitly serious romance show where like, oh, this gal character is a super serious romance lead, like it's just a comedy thing where they get to act super dumb and like overly tsundere-y.
Yeah,
I love it.
there's ways to do tsunderes correctly in like dramatic romances,
Hmm.
but it can be easily just be viewed as super stupid.
Yeah. And
It's a
the
fine
over-the-top
line.
nature of the character type lends itself better to comedies than
Yeah,
dramas, in my opinion.
if you're gonna have a tsundere character, it can't be as not as explicit, as heightened as other shows.
Yeah. It's got to be a little more, yeah, like tame in
Yeah, a little
both
tamer.
ends of the hot and cold side of tsundere.
Mm-hmm. You also need to give him like not really a reason. I don't know. I guess don't know how to describe Taiga because she's like usually the tsundere that people talk about in romance shows.
Yeah.
I guess someone like Cat Guy from Fruits Basket also works. Even a little bit of what's his face Mouse Guy,
Yeah.
Ryu and Yuki.
Yes.
They're a bit better ways.
Hmm.
They are the better ways to do tsunderes because they both
Yes.
have like that hot and cold ish to them.
Yeah. And they both express it in like a different way.
Yeah, and both have like reasons ish to be guarded. They
Uh-huh.
both have motivations of why they're guarded
Yeah.
and the way they are. If you
Uh,
all couldn't tell, we really like Fruits Basket.
really like Fruits Basket. Looking forward to the next course of
Oh,
it.
I can't wait.
But in this, we are set up for something to happen with Skewer's Girl, and possibly something to happen with this book. Mostly I'm disappointed in Joro for not just listening to Pansy and be like, well, I guess I'll just hang out with you in the library then.
Yeah,
And just having it be the end of it, but the plot must go on, I guess. So he's got to go be an idiot and pay her back by rebuying the book that's super expensive, which is weird because like I understand it from like a your book got messed up, but like apparently it's still readable.
yeah, like it's just the cover.
Yeah,
I can
it's
understand
like
if it
it's
was
not like
like all
it's
fucked up, like you literally couldn't read the page.
yeah. I could kind of more understand like a you wanted me to read this, and so I really want to read it, and that's why I'm buying it. Like
Yeah,
that would make sense.
but
But
she
he can
says you
still
can still
read
read
it,
it. Yeah,
and he's reading it at the moment. Like I feel like I agree with his yeah
I
his
think
whole thing of I have to do it less
I think they
because of that.
needed it to be fucked up, or the book to be
Yeah,
fucked up.
the book should have been more messed up, but I guess they also needed him to be able to read it so that when
Yeah, because there's
he
probably gonna be some other
talks to
things.
Pansy, yeah, when he talks to Pansy again, he probably is going to make some sort of reference to the book, or he's going to like come to understand why he's an idiot in reading the book.
You know what? It's probably gonna be the. That's gonna be the moral of the story. Is he reads the book and it's about like some guy who, like ignores his girlfriend to like make money. He's gonna be like, oh, this is what's happening.
Be a little bit very on the nose. She gave it to him in respect to his whole like trying to be friends with everybody and
Yeah.
continue the harem plan. So I'm expecting it to be more of like a guy tries to create a harem and ends up turning everybody away because nobody feels like they're the one for him sort of thing, but we'll find out.
Or a book about a stalker who falls in love with the guy and the guy falls in love with her. The end.
See, what I was really hoping it was going to be was a book where a stalker falls in love with a guy and the guy falls in love with somebody else and then the stalker kills the guy at the end. And when he gives it back to Pansy, Pansy's like, this is what's going to happen if you don't pick me.
That'd be great. That'd make me like Pansy even more.
That was what I was kind of hoping the book was when she first gave it to him. I was like, please just be a threat. Please be a coded threat, but we'll find out.
Well, theories of that aside, I guess we can move on to our last happy-go-lucky show, which was a nice antidote to whatever Babylon was that episode.
Yeah, it was the
Aruma.
very Aruma was the very literal eye bleach after the end of Babylon.
Where we have another whore. I'm kidding.
That's
I'm joking.
a very judgy way to call a succubus.
They're whores. Whatever. You can't prove me wrong. But anyways, this is the episode that Nick had mentioned about earlier, which is Clara joins Succubus elective.
Yes. And she basically decides like she needs to find a way to when something is stolen from her, steal it back.
Yep.
So she needs to steal back Aruma from the student council president.
Which it's also that, but at the very end, it's also another thing. It's another motivation where it's not only that she wants to steal Iruma-kun back, but actually wants to make him fall in love with her.
Yes. Um, she's a little bit on the like innocent side at the moment, so I don't know if she even fully realizes
What she
what her
said.
full-on motivation is. Yeah. Um, but there is certainly development at the end. But at first, we have Clara joins the Succubus division as her chosen elective, and there they are instructed of basically attracting men. It is not necessarily like a race-specific thing, even. Like there are some. It is taught by like more of a
An actual
classical
succubus
sector.
succubus.
Uh-huh. And the one girl from the abnormal class who is a succubus style character is also in the class, but there's a whole bunch of other characters who are
Like
not.
basically all the female characters that we've seen, all the unique ones.
Yeah, they all show up in the succubus class, and they
Like
all have different types of demon shapes and sizes.
got
So
the alligator, the one-eyed thingamajigger.
yeah. The weird tentacle thing that's anime original. We see the blonde girl who is in love with Aruma. We see Glasses, and then we see Clara as they go through the arrowscope to see how much their like arrow power is. And abnormal succubus lady is up at like the 80 percentile, and Glasses from the abnormal class is down to like 51. The tentacle thing is at mystery percentile, and then we have Clara at a wonderful 2%.
Two,
Somehow less erotic than children
which is
or babies.
babies. That was a weird comment.
It was a very weird comment. Very, very weird comment.
That's a weird. That's a weird scouter.
Yeah. But she basically gets like baby's first seduction books where she basically learns the ABCs of what is it to be seductive. And somehow still manages to learn all the wrong lessons. So first they learn about posing, which I feel like is a very weird lesson one. I feel like that's definitely not a lesson one topic.
Yeah, body language is hard to manipulate.
Yeah. Like even the touching thing, like casual touching is easier to understand than like how to pose yourself in a way that makes other people like you in a sexual way is very, very difficult, I feel like. But she basically goes through the ringer of all of the different ways in which, you could be attractive. So she learns posing.
And
then
fucks
she
it all
learns
up.
casual touching. And instead, enables casual touching through piggyback rides. And then she tries out things that shake. And instead puts on basically the outfit that represents a scrubber brush from a drive-through cleaner.
That was a pom-pom.
It basically is a pom-pom. It's like bodysuit pom-pom is what she puts on.
And then perfume, and then she just douses herself with perfume. One of the first lessons, don't ever do that.
Yeah. Everybody has a very visceral reaction to that, which is very true. Holy shit, if people put on too much perfume, it physically hurts.
This is what I've heard is like the best way to do it is one spits in the air and you walk into it, and that's it. That's enough.
I've heard that too, but
Also,
I don't really do cologne.
Yeah, I hate cologne. It fucks with my head. It hurts my head.
Yeah. And then she attempts makeup and sort of ends up looking like Pennywise the Clown. And then she puts them all together, and it is a wonderful nightmare. And then she goes home, sort of depressed, and her family sings her a song to sort of cheer her up.
I did not expect that musical number halfway through.
Didn't either. Was not in the manga.
I mean, you can't really have a musical number in a manga.
It's true. Well, she didn't even go home in the manga. Like like the end of the makeup thing, and then it just goes to the end of the day, and she sees Aruma again. Like there's that whole scene where she goes home is not there.
I kind of liked it. It was a very nice scene.
It was.
They do a really good job at like showing that she's actually trying, because like when she first tries to go into the elective, people are making fun of her, and she actually feels sad, and you can actually tell like it's a really sad moment for her, even though it's kind of comedic. There's still that like connotation, not connotation, but there's still a bit of sadness in it.
Yeah.
And even when she comes back as well, and like all her brothers, trying to cheer her up, and kind of like tease her to play with them, and she just really kind of depressed in that moment, and then they all start singing and they all start having fun. It's a very nice, kind of touching, warm moment.
Yeah. We all laugh with Alice as he looks at Clara and says, "Oh my God, the poor thing's retarded." But it is twinged with that thought of like,
Oh my
that's a
god,
really mean joke.
yeah.
Like she's supposed to be your friend. Like that's mean, dude. You're not a demon. You're just a jerk.
But yeah, she gets better. She gets resolved, and then she tries some more things out.
Yeah. She decides to combine all of the things with her family's secret technique that cheered her up, kissing. So she launches herself at Aruma as a pom-pom, perfume-slathered, makeup-covered missile of
And then
kiss,
just launches herself towards Aruma.
who has the magical dodging power through his danger avoidance sense, where he jumps out of the way, and so instead she goes mouth first into Caligo's stomach and basically knocks him out cold.
Yep. Oh, Caligo.
One solid kidney shot was all it took.
Down for the count.
Uh,
TKO.
TKO. I love Caligo, though.
I
He's
can't
a
wait for
great
him to interact with the white-haired lady.
Oh, the teacher who's in love with him?
Yep.
Caligo's a great teacher. But at the end of all of this, and her failed kissing attempt, Clara is sort of depressed, and so she goes back outside and sort of
Sits on a hill.
sits on a hill, sort of watching the sunset, and sort of thinks like I've tried everything. I tried the kissing thing that wasn't in the book, what my family does to make me feel better. Like nothing is working. I should just give this up. And Aruma sort of comes outside to find her and basically says like, it's not safe for a woman to be out here alone. And she realizes like, oh my god, you actually see me as a woman, like
Yay.
not just a weird amorphous blob to you. And this sort of makes her happy. Then we get a nice shot of her against the sunset, in actual like fully character realized shape of her, face, so she looks like a normal human being, or not normal human being, but more human than her normal cartoony depiction. As she says, "One day I'll, snare you. I'll wrap you around my finger."
That
And then
was
she
like
runs off.
sugar straight into my veins.
And then to make it better, we have the succubus sensei as she looks out the window and sees Clara running off with Aruma, and the aeroscope tells her that she's improved just a little bit, up to 10%. So something about that little last moment with Aruma has made her just ever so slightly more erotic.
That's a weird. God damn, that aeroscope was just so weird this episode.
It is
It
super
should have been
weird.
called like a love meter or something.
It really should have, but it's not.
But
Um,
anyways, it was a really nice episode.
it was.
I fucking love the ending.
And yeah, and now Aruma has basically decided he wants to raise his rank.
Yep.
That is his
his
goal.
dream.
So we're gonna have Aruma try to realize his dream to raise his rank next episode.
Become king of the demons. The demon
Well,
pirates.
we'll get there someday. The demon pirates. Yeah, so Aruma has sort of decided that's what he's gonna go on. So next episode, we're gonna get to see Aruma try to get a little bit better.
Yep.
Raise himself up. Started from the bottom.
Yeah. So after this episode of ABC, we'll basically only be talking about comedic shows or shows with comedy in them. The most dramatic one is Dr.
Stone.
Yeah. Because Babylon is going on hiatus, like I mentioned earlier. So our darkest show is now just going away for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess it'll be Rays and Sunshines for a little bit here,
Yeah, it's true.
and then it'll get really dark for an episode, and then get maybe better again. Depends on what we watch the next season.
Yeah. And it depends on how Babylon gets released.
Yeah, I really hope
If they
it's
go-
all at once.
I do too. If they go back to the weekly thing at the end, that'll really annoy me.
Yeah, it'd be a weird decision. I do have hopes it's gonna be all at once because I feel like that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
It's like a reverse of what they're doing for the first 3 episodes.
Mhm.
Aside from that, yeah, all funny shows around, except for Babylon.
Yeah. So, I guess from here on out, it's going to be all sunshine and laughs here on ABC
Until someone dies in Doctor Stone.
until somebody dies in Dr. Stone.
I don't think anyone's gonna die.
Or we go
Not
to
yet.
war. I feel like there's no way Dr. Stone could do a war and not have it be, like, at least sort of vaguely dark.
Yeah, we've got 3 episodes left. I don't know if they're gonna get to the war. I think we'll get.
I
right
don't think
before
they're
the
actually
war.
going to get to the war, but it's just more on, like, talking about, like, the concept of they're going to war is, like, it just has to be, like, sort of dark. Like, people just have to die. That's the way war works.
I think what's gonna end up happening is Senku's gonna what's the word? Oh my god, I can't think of the word.
Peace treaty.
It's gonna argue his point and convince people to join his side. Because like he's got electricity, he's making radios, they've got bottled food and canned food. Like you start telling people that, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, fuck this Sukasa shit. Like I don't want to eat boar meat for the fifth time this week. I'm gonna go over to their side. They've got fucking cotton candy."
Yeah, you say like he has to convince them. I again go back to literally all he has to have is air conditioning. I would betray anybody if there was like on the one side no air conditioning, on the other side air conditioning. I'd be like, "Fuck you! I'm joining the air conditioning team."
I need a shower.
Like that is, God, because like just surviving the outside elements all year round with no like temperature control at all, it's gotta suck.
Yeah.
Like even a fire is not gonna help you an amazing amount. But yeah, so Sunshine and Smiles here on APC.
Mm-hmm.
But that with mentioning the end of Babylon will bring us to the end of the episode.
That about wraps it up. What would you like to sell out to today? This is our final segment.
Yeah. Let's see. What would I like to sell out to today? I will hmm. You know what? I'm going to sell out to Jose Mourinho, who, despite being fired from Manchester United last season in the Premier League, has somehow now found his way into yet another job as a manager of like a top 5 team in the Premier League. He's now the manager for Tottenham. So shout out to you, Jose Mourinho. Despite screwing up Manchester United season last season, you somehow yet again found yourself at the reins of another team. I mean,
maybe
good on you for having a career. Yeah, seriously. So do your best, Mr. Most decorated in the Premier League. Accomplish something with Tottenham. If you accomplish something with Tottenham, holy shit, you will live forever.
Manchester United will get super pissed off.
Manchester United will be super pissed off at you. And Tottenham fans will love you for literally forever if you win any amount of silverware with them. But yeah, so shout out to you, Jose Mourinho.
Oh my god, I had to sell it to something and I don't know what to sell it to. How do I do it? I'm gonna sell out to this old YouTube channel that I used to watch called Douchebag Chocolate. He made a bunch of funny videos and then stopped making them like 3 years ago. I fucking love his videos. They're very hilarious. He's got more stress than we'll ever have, so it makes no sense to sell out to him. But whatever.
Who cares? Nothing ever makes sense with our sellouts.
Nah, it never
We do them anyways. Most of the time, I sell it to things that, don't need selling out to, or I sell it to things sarcastically,
or sell it to concepts.
Yeah, or sell it to concepts.
But yeah, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Or night. Or whatever it is.
Or night. Whenever you listen to these. I mean, nobody actually listens to these, so I guess time is amorphous because nobody's listening to these. Just cut me off whenever you feel like it, Brandon.